to support this meeting with the parents. I am Deanna Courtney Rives. I am the early childhood consultant for Tipton Academy. Um, I support them from Wayne County RESA. Tonight, we're going to be talking to you about the COR Advantage and Cambu Family app that the teachers use and you can use as parents to support in your children's learning. My colleague, Jerry Sifton, is present. She also is from Wayne County RESA, and she's going to be presenting the information to you about the Campbell Family app and COR. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. Let me get my screen pulled up here so I can get us started. Give me just 1 second because the technology is fun too, and I now have my child sharing the internet with me so that she would not be sharing the kitchen table with me. So she may be pulling a little bit of my bandwidth. So if I freeze or anything, please let me know, and we'll go ahead and started with this. So my name is Jerry Sifton. I am from Wayne RESA. One of the things that I oversee is the use of the COR Advantage platform, which is one of our child assessment tools that we use within Wayne County. So we'll be looking at a few things within the assessment system, as well as really diving into that parent app. I will be showing you on the screen, as well as showing you on my phone what that looks like from the parent's end. I could never be a YouTuber because I am terrible at showing things on my computer screen, trying to hold them up for you to see. So I apologize right now if it gets blurry or if it takes me a few tries. That is why that is not my strength or my wheelhouse, and that's why I do this instead. If at any time you have questions, please you can ask in the moment. If somebody's monitoring the chat, if you have that on, just let me know what I need to stop at or slow down. And we'll go from there. I do have 2 distractions I can guarantee that will come up tonight. So these are my surprise guest stars that you will probably see or hear at some time tonight. My lovely dog Shreddo is our guard dog, and we'll let you know if anybody's thinking about walking around outside or maybe wants to deliver a package, or if I don't know, something just thought about flying by outside, who knows. The little one, Sienna, is a preschooler just like yours, and she doesn't always understand the whole concept of working from home. So she knows that she's in the other room right now. She's actually getting technology time, which is a real like important deal at our house because that normally doesn't happen. But she also is used to stealing the show because my boss lets her sing and dance at the end of our staff meetings. So she may just sing in here and dance and then disappear because that happens a lot around here. Deanna has probably seen her dance at many staff meetings. Anyhow, COR Advantage, I want to give you just a tiny little bit of a background in case you haven't spoke with this with your child's teacher yet. COR Advantage is the assessment tool that we use to monitor the implementation of high scope and what your child is learning. So it is broken into different learning domains, which are the part that is highlighted in the green, so approaches to learning, social and emotional development, physical development and health, language, literacy and communication, mathematics, creative arts, science and technology, social studies, and English language learning for the families that need that support. So this would be somebody who's not a native speaker or perhaps not speaking English in the home. We'd be looking at those skill sets as well. Within each one of those domains, we have it broken down to a few key targets that we're looking at. These are things that your teacher is making intentional lesson plans around to see where your child's at and then to scaffold them higher. So if in the beginning of the year, say in patterns, maybe in the beginning of the year, your child's not actually able to make a pattern, or maybe they can identify a pattern but can't create one on their own, your teacher's going to work with that intentionally and plan lessons around that to make sure that as the year progresses, their knowledge of that skill set is going to progress as well. I'm only referencing this because it's going to come up a little bit when we're talking about things that you can submit through the app and things that the parent may be sending you through the app. So I want you to kind of understand the correlation, and I'll reference this a few other times as we go. So again, these were the main learning domains that I mentioned. This is what was in the green on that other slide. So approaches to learning, social and emotional development, physical development and health, language, literacy and communication, mathematics, creative arts, science and technology, social studies, and that English language learning piece. Do we want to go ahead and watch the video? It's about 10 minutes long, or do you want to just send the link with it afterwards? We can do either, because I'm going to go over basically the same thing that the video covers. So I didn't know which way would work best for you guys.
I think if we, I don't know what the video says, but I'm thinking if you're going to cover what's in the video, that we can do that, and we can also share the link with that when we send the video out.
Okay, so
Definitely.
do the video right now as well, or?
No, we can hold off on the video. We're
Okay.
going to send it as a link.
Okay, perfect. And we truly will walk through everything the video says. That was just something we asked the company if they would kind of put together for us in a package that for any parent who missed this, they'd be able to go back and view it themselves as well. So for families who are downloading the app, this is what the icon will look like in the Apple Store or through Google Play. So you can just go in and put Cane Blue for Families, and this will pop up. This is a free app. And then once you log it in, it'll ask you for your email address or your phone number that's associated with your child's account. Once you put that on the screen, it will give you a PIN number to connect the two. So if you said that your account's registered through a phone number, it would then send you a text message with the PIN number. If you said it's connected to an email address, it would email you that PIN number for you to put on the screen to get into your child's account. If you don't know how your account is registered, you could reach out to the teacher who will have put this in when they were putting your child in the system. So inside the app, this is what it would look like on your phone once you've downloaded it. I have an Android, so this where these are coming from. It may look slightly different on an Apple device because some of the trainings I've seen, her pictures are in different orders, so I'm thinking she has an Apple versus my Android. So within here, this is just a shot of the feed that I took in September when I was trying to start creating some of these things. And this is the bar that you will see at the bottom of the device. So it gives you your home, your messages, the drop off, and the profile. The profile is just how you change things about yourself as the parent or the family member. It contains your personal information like your email address and your phone number. So if you wanted to change how that's connected, you could change that. It also contains your name, your children's names. If you have more than one child in the system, it will have all their information in there as well. Just a quick, easy way for you to change whatever you need to change within that. I honestly never even touched my profile. I've just left it alone. Some of my information is accurate, some of it is not, because this is actually linked to a training account that we use. The photos that you see are real, the child is real. Like I said, you may hear her in a while. But the account that I'm going to play in, the only real information you'll see is hers, because we would never share anybody's sensitive personal information in a recording or with other family members. So you will not see your actual school's account. You're never going to see your child's name or anything about your child in this demonstration, because we respect their privacy and we want to keep that private in between you and your school and your child. I will toggle a little bit between these slides and the phone because I want to make sure you can see it like I have it laid out here, as well as what it would look like in real time if you were using this tool. If it makes you a little dizzy, let me know and I'll slow down. So when you're using the app, there's this green plus button at the bottom, and you will see this on pretty much every screen, and the same thing is true for the teacher within the COR Advantage system. The green plus button becomes basically your best friend. It does everything you need it to do when you need to add something, no matter where you're at. So from your home screen, if you wanted to add a photo or a video to share with your teacher, you would go to this green plus button. It then, depending on your device, it gives you a little bit of a different choice of how to upload those and where you can pull it from. You can take a photo or a video right in that moment. You can pull it from your library. You can pull it from some social media streams. I want to say from Instagram and Facebook, but I could be incorrect because I don't use either of those. So I just pull them straight from my camera roll. Once you hit the upload, it'll ask you which file you want to use. If you have more than one child in the system, it will also ask you which child to associate it with. And I'll show you this live in a few moments as well. The next section is the messages section. So if the teacher were to send a mass message to the entire class or just a message to you, it will live in the message section. If it is highlighted in red like this first one, that means it was marked urgent. If the message is marked urgent, it will go to the app, it'll go to your phone, it will go to any communication device of yours they have on file to ensure that you see this message. My messages are not the most exciting, but they were made just for this demonstration purpose. So again, just a little text message that I was excited, and then a message that was just reminding people about COVID and maybe some of the things that have changed within the building because of making sure we're safe during the pandemic. One of the features the school can enable is the drop-off notes. I'm not sure if Tipton is using this feature yet or not, but you can do a liability on here as well. So that piece of it would be something the school would set up on their end if they wanted you to fill out like that COVID agreement that's required, ensuring that children have not had any of the symptoms or have a temperature. They could type out and list what they want that to look like. After you read it, you would click the agree button down here. You would not be able to submit the note without agreeing that, yes, my child is free from any of these symptoms. You can also add in a note here to the teacher. So my child is actually picked up on the bus every morning, so I don't ever see her teacher, to be honest. We can communicate through the app. I can call whenever I want, but I've never seen her teacher face to face. So as I put her on the bus, maybe she didn't eat breakfast that morning, or maybe it's a morning like this morning where I had to pretty much drag her out of bed because it might as well have been a Monday, even though it wasn't. I could put those notes in there for the teacher, just saying like, hey, heads up, maybe she's a little cranky, maybe she's a little tired. Or last week when I said she's been up since 4 o'clock, so sorry, hope she stays in a good mood, which ironically she did the entire day, but came home and was ready to fall asleep at the dinner table. But those kind of things you can put in here for the teacher to see. On the teacher's end, they can run off a report that's just called drop off report, and it would show any notes that parents put in there for the day. This is not something they're going to reply to instantly. So if you are trying to say, I need a call back right away, don't use this feature for that. So this will sit until they generate the report. Most teachers do it if they're taking attendance to see if there's any notes from the parents saying, like I said, either they missed breakfast or maybe they're getting picked up early. But this feature is not meant for that quick back and forth like texting communication. So if it's something urgent you need to reply to, there would probably be a different system in place within the school for that piece. So once you submit things from the app, this is what it would look like from the teacher's end within the COR Advantage system. It would have all the moments that she's captured for your child, which could be videos, photos, it could just be text when they see things that they're doing and they type in a note, and then your things that you submit will live here as well. So these are some shots that I took from my phone of just things that were happening around the house that I knew had some good value that I wanted to share with her teacher. The one that we see on the left, we had made some cookies one night. So she sat there and was pointing to each one and counting them and made it to 13 correctly. In teacher speak, we'd say that's one-to-one correspondence, but I just know that she's pointing and counting, and that's what I entered into the note. She did skip 14, 15, and 16. She's not a fan of right now, but she can go to 42 as long as she doesn't use those 3 numbers. When it gets to the teacher, it will have this little tag here, and in that moment it only had the number 1, and that tag would have said family submitted, so they knew it came from me. At that moment, they can decide if they want to use this to add to the assessment, or if they just want to say, oh, that's a great moment the family shared with me, and not include it in the assessment. Sometimes it comes down to how much the photo shows or what the descriptor shows. Sometimes there's not enough information for the teacher to use it to make a good judgment of if she can make that work in the assessment piece or not. So if they don't include your photo, don't be upset about it or anything. It still will live in there. It's not being deleted. It just may not be used for the assessment purpose. The one on the right, even though the picture doesn't show the entire thing, this pattern repeated 5 times when she was putting away groceries. She lined up her dad's power aids and then read the pattern and said, look, it says blue, white, blue, white, blue, white. Again, this is what the teacher sees on her side. So on this piece, this shows how the teacher then was able to add in additional information. So it started with just this family submitted tag saying, I sent this photo to the teacher, and then the teacher was able to look at it and say, oh, I can see her pointing as she's doing it. And my text says that she counted to 13 correctly. So they're then able to label it with numbers and counting, which falls under that mathematic domain. And then this number 3 is the score that would go with that note. So depending on how well her ability is, whether or not she is skipping numbers as she counts, is where this score would come from. In the COR Advantage system, children are scored on a continuum of 0 to 7. This platform is made for birth through age 6. And so you're going to fall in there somewhere. It's not like there's a magic number we're looking for right now with our students. We're just looking at wherever they're at now, we want to move them higher later. Typically, we see most children at 4s and 5s by the end of the school year. In some areas, your child may score a 7. In some areas, your child may score a 2. And your teacher will work with that and explain to you why and what next steps you can do for those. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this screen for just a moment so I can show you what this will look like on the phone as well. Bear with me just one second, please. I had to hurry up and charge my phone because that wasn't going to work out since it was on 3%. Okay, so within the parent app, this is where I have to try to do my non-YouTube thing that I can't really do well. Okay, so here's my phone with terrible glare with the whole I can't be a YouTuber. So I'm going to just the family app. And then all of my moments, and I don't know how to get rid of that horrible glare. I am so sorry. Ooh. Okay, here we go. So this was actually a moment from earlier. This gives you a true life view into the wreck of our house we had going on earlier when I was trying to work. So for those of you who are working with home with a child, I feel you, I understand. This was our dining room table. What you don't see is I am right here trying to do conference calls while all this is happening. But the exciting part, and the reason I took this photo is because in it, she's created this Play-Doh thing that is green and it's blue and it's just kind of a hunk of Play-Doh, but she said that she made the earth. And so we had a little conversation back and forth, and she said she made the earth, and I asked her, like, oh, you made the earth, who lives there? And she's like, oh, Spider-Man does. And I was like, oh, Spider-Man lives in the earth? You can tell where our family goes, right? So then we had a little conversation back and forth. As of right now, it's just submitted with a family submission. It may end up getting tagged depending on if the teacher can use this or not. Communication may be the only place she can play it because I did type out the dialogue of our exchange back and forth staying on this topic. I'm not convinced it can be stretched for geography because she knew nothing about the earth other than that Spider-Man was probably there. But it continues to just show different photos. Okay, eventually I'll get back in that sweet spot where the glare wasn't there. There we go, that's kind of it. It will continue to show the different photos that I have uploaded. This one was her retelling a story where she was pointing to the text as she was retelling the events in the book. So it's a familiar book, one that we read very frequently when she's going to bed. It was able to be tagged with book enjoyment and knowledge because she could retell the events in the story pretty much spot on. So in case you don't recognize this blurry picture that I'm trying to show you, this is Nuffle Bunny, which is an amazing story. So if you don't have this, go to the library and check it out. You will not be sad about that. But basically, it's the trauma a child is facing as her beloved toy is missing. I'm sure you've all been there. But she's able to go through this and explain what's happening. So I was able to document it that way. This one here looks almost like a little book. This is a digest. A storyboard that the teacher had sent. If I click it, it opens up all kinds of things where the teacher was highlighting. So it kind of goes through a few of those moments that I sent in, upcoming things that are going on, and then dates to remember in the bottom that school is closed right now because of parent-teacher conferences, which is why she's hanging out with me and not in her classroom. Yeah, thanks, schools. I mentioned the geography part earlier, and sometimes it really is those simple little moments that you wouldn't expect to be the learning moments that your teacher will get and be like, oh my gosh, you captured that, that's great. So it's not that you need special things at home to be capturing these moments for your teachers to be able to assess. So we were driving the other day like everywhere else in Michigan, there's construction everywhere. Our normal exit we couldn't get off at. So our exit was blocked and detoured. We got out at a different exit. And as we're driving back to the service drive, she points out the window at these green smokestacks on the side of the expressway. And she just says, that's what tells our Nana how to get to our house. When she sees those, she knows to turn right. And because GPSs are used so frequently in our car, I will say that my child knows her right and left, and it has nothing to do with something we did. It is the Cookie Monster voice on the Waze app that has completely got her into learning her right and left. But this is a really good geography note because not only is she referencing how to get back to our house, she's using those directional verbs to get there. So knowing that we have to turn right, and then that takes us back over the bridge to get to our house. Again, I showed you before that on the bottom. Oh, here we go. We have the messages, the drop off, and the profile. So if I wanted to do anything right now and send something to the teacher, like let's say I'm dropping off at 6:46 because that seems fair, I can go to my drop off note section. Sorry, guys. And there's that green plus button again. Once I hit that, I'm able to select which child. Only one of them is really a preschooler, but because I use this for my demo account, I have 2 different children in there just because I wanted to play with the features and see what happens. I can type in the note, and then it has the liability that I mentioned before, and that glare is awful. I am so sorry. And then down here, after I click that I agree, it will turn green for the parent to be able to submit that. That instantly is going to show up in the teacher's end and have a note there that says good luck, because that's what I just entered. That's going to be a fun conversation tomorrow. So we have a good relationship. Everything is good. Let me get you back into the other slides. I kind of wanted to show some things that you may want to consider sharing. So like I said, sometimes we worry about, what if I don't have the materials that I think that we need, or I don't really know what I'm looking for. And we're trying to think of some of those things that were in those domains that I showed you before, but it really is everyday things that are just happening at your house. And these things are happening all the time, but your teachers don't get to see your child all of the time. And especially as there's the concern between in person and remote and going back and forth and what's going to happen, just knowing that we have a sense of all being in this together and making sure we're all making sure that the child's getting this well-rounded message. So here's some things to share. Let me put this back on present mode so it'll be a little bit bigger for you. So these are some of the types of things that you can share through the app. So this is just a photo of her holding her marker, and she changed her grasp right after I took the picture or as I was taking it, but just I'm focusing on how her grasp looks. And this is something that the teacher can look at it and say like, oh, she's using a tripod grasp, she's using an alternate grasp. They can score that just based on how your child's holding the pencil. So not even what they're doing, because why were we coloring Christmas pictures in October? Because it's 2020 and we can. So just the little things that happened. I'm kind of bummed that this picture got cut up when I uploaded it, but this was just a sample of some of her writing. She has a complete love of writing and drawing. Her older sister loves to draw and do anything art. So the 4-year-old just wants to be like her older sister and draw things all the time as well. But she actually had wrote the words up here, I see a cat. Cat was something she had sounded out with her teacher earlier in the week. So this is now a word that she can spell and write by herself, and she's super excited. She told me it was supposed to say, I see a superhero cat, but she didn't know how to spell superhero. So she just left it as I see a cat, but then gave me that verbiage. So I shared that verbiage with her teacher. Again, you've seen this one already. You can do a photo or a video of your child counting. It doesn't have to be that they're counting something. It could just be them rote counting. So maybe as they're washing their hands, they're counting to 20 as they're washing their hands. It could be that they're counting while they're putting something away or why they're setting the table. It's not that we're looking for a thing or a certain number. We're just looking to see what your child can do and then how we can take them a little bit higher. Or again, as something of your child telling a story, reading independently. And reading at this age can be a lot of things. It can be looking at a photo and just saying what's happening in the photo. It could be retelling the story because they've heard it 9 million times. Or it can just be pointing and labeling the things that are in the picture. Some children are able to actually point to the words and read the words, and that's amazing too. And that's not as common, but it definitely happens. So if you have a child who is truly reading words, let your teacher know, because that's exciting things to share. Other things to think about is what you're putting in with that entry. So just looking at this picture, it kind of looks like she's up to something, and maybe I don't know, want to know what she's up to, but she looks a little guilty, I'm not going to lie. But what it really was, the important part of this picture was the words that went with it. So this was one of those rainy, gross mornings when it was gonna rain, not gonna rain, I'm not sure if it's gonna rain. And she decided she should use her umbrella. Her sister decided she didn't need one because she's in middle school and it wasn't that rainy. So the caption that went with it was, "This keeps me dry." And she just side-eyed her sister, kind of like, "Told you so," without actually saying those words, of course. So if you have quotes you can add to your photo or to your video, that's really helpful. Obviously, if it was a video, you don't need quotes, they're going to hear the audio. But if it's a photo, if you have a quote to add to it, that way you know she's not just being salty, but there really was an educational reason for why the photo was selected. So for this, it was a problem solving. You know, she knew it was kind of drizzly and gross outside, so she planned ahead and decided to bring her umbrella with her. Yeah. So for those of you who may not want to download the app, there is another option. It just doesn't have as many features. So you can use the version that is through the computer. And I have the web address highlighted up here. It is my.coradvantage.com/home. It's going to have you link it, like I said, how the app does. So if you've never been to this site before, it's going to ask you how your child is in the system, whether it's through a phone number or through an email, to ensure it's connecting you with the right person. Once you've been here, it's not going to do that anymore, unless maybe you delete your cookies or clear out your history. It may ask again. You would then select that photo or video from your computer instead, select which child, and add the notes. The hard part with this is, to me, the feed isn't as parent friendly. You also don't have the drop off note feature, and it's not as organized in a way that works for my brain. So there's nothing wrong with using it on just the PC version, but for me, it doesn't work for me. But it can work for you. So here's what it would look like if you were sharing that moment. And then instead of having that live feed of all the things, you would get like snapshots through what they call a digest, where it would just be emailed to you. So this would be like the email of some of the same things you saw in that app, but it just wouldn't be that streamlined process of just being able to go through it that way. But you'd still be able to get all that information on your child, because it's still your child and you still need to know what's going on and share the things that are going on. What questions might you have? I know I kind of threw a lot at you and I did it really fast because I talk a mile a minute. I'm so sorry. But what questions might be floating out there?
You did a fantastic job. I actually learned so much watching the session tonight about what parents could look for at home and what moments they could capture that our teachers could utilize for learning. So that was awesome. One thing that I know you don't know, but our parents do, is that we have the applications in the ClassLink single sign-on. So when they sign into ClassLink, they'll be able to access, I can never say it right. How do you say the name of that app? Is it Cambu?
So I've heard it pronounced both ways. I've heard Cambu and Cambu. They're housed out of Massachusetts. That could have something to do with it because it's a slightly different accent. Either one works. It's okay. They're very friendly people. They don't mind if we butcher their name.
Yes. So yeah, we do have the app in there, and so our families will have access to that directly as well.
Yeah, definitely. I did have a question before I say that. Jerry, Deanna, thank you so much for coming out tonight. Excellent presentation, very informative. Jerry, I guess my question is, what are the most common struggles that you're seeing from parents with the app? And I guess I'm just trying to troubleshoot some of those while we do have the recording going.
Sure. The struggles aren't coming from the parent side.
Okay.
Struggles are actually coming from teachers who are afraid of using it. So the parents seem to be using it very seamlessly. The ones who I've talked to who are using it really like it. It's more of an adjustment for teachers because this is a new feature that they rolled out during the pandemic to ensure that teachers still felt connected to the families when they had to go to remote learning. So it was one of those things that, so Caneboot is the software company, COR Advantage is the assessment tool, and at that piece, we were not using all of the Caneboot features because of just the way that the contract was written and things that had nothing to do with us. They merged it completely so that COR Advantage could take advantage of the entire Caneboot system, which opened up more training for teachers and more tools for parents. But yeah, all of the challenges that I've heard of are not from parents. They're just teachers getting used to it, or teachers who are uncertain with it, or who don't want to let go of the other app they were using instead. Because it was something they were comfortable with. So it's just that whole change can be a little bit hard, but parents were just kind of like, I'll send you pictures of my child. What do you want to know? And sometimes it's almost an overshare. And that's why I kind of wanted to highlight those domains of these are the things we're really looking for, because as cute as your child's pink sparkly boots are, just a picture of the pink sparkly boots, we can't score. But if your child were to say, look at my new pink sparkly books, I'm so excited, and you shared that piece with it too, now we can score it for emotions. So not to say there's no value to that, but it comes down to how much of it you're sharing with the teachers and then what they can share back with it.
So would you say like the big key takeaway with that is when you're sharing those pictures, you definitely have to have the what's going on in that moment.
Yeah, it's very helpful. Like there's a few that are standalone. So like a grip on a pencil, like that wouldn't really need a disclaimer because you're focusing in on what their hand is doing. But I would say most pictures would need some kind of explanation. So like for example, the picture with the Powerade bottles that were in the pattern. Because the photo doesn't show the repetition, the way you score that is actually how many times they can repeat the pattern. In the photo, you only see like 3 or 4 bottles. In reality, it was the entire shelf going to our basement because we don't have a pantry, so we use whatever space we can. So that's where the Powerade lives. So she went the entire length of that, and it was like 5 repetitions. And I was like, so I had to include that in the note, so it wasn't just like, oh, here's 3 bottles, because it just changes the outcome and shows the different level of what she knows.
And so to add to that, Jerry, parents don't necessarily need to know that you're looking for patterns, or how would they know to look for those patterns? Like, are they just, oh, my child is doing this, and they snap a picture and send it to the teacher, so they hope that it's something? Or is there like some sort of guide so they kind of know what to look for when they're with
Sure.
their kiddo all day?
Different schools are handling that a little bit different. So some of the classrooms I support, they're specifically asking the parent to follow up with something they targeted that day. So I have one school that actually has some classes in person and some remote, depending on what parents wanted. The teachers who are in person aren't using the tool as much because they're capturing most things because they have the child for 7.5 hours a day. The remote class is asking the parents to specifically look for the learning targets of that day. So if they did a small group time around sizes, they may say, if you see your child doing this, like don't set the stage, it's not a test. But if you see your child doing this, capture it and send it back. Or if they've been working on that child writing their name and maybe the teacher says like, we're just not seeing your child write their name. But you say, really at home, it happens all the time. Because sometimes you get different things in home and in school. We just had conferences and they showed me a picture that was supposed to be her sign-in sheet. And I laughed because it was one giant scribble. She's been writing her name for a very long time, but she didn't know her teacher knew that. So she was just scribbling on everything until the teacher reminded her that she knew her from the year before from a different classroom and was like, hey. So, if that's your target, if your target is we're working on writing the first letter of your name, or maybe it's a child who already knows their first name and is working on their last name. So some teachers are giving almost like a mini script of these are things we're looking for. And some just want the parent to be comfortable using the tool. And they truly are saying, send us a family picture, send us a shape around your house, send us anything you want to send us so you feel comfortable using it. And then we'll tell you which ones were most helpful for us. And then maybe that can shape what they're doing moving forward.
Awesome. Yeah. So it kind of sounds like it's teacher guided, but it's almost like sending parents on like a miniature scavenger hunt for moments in life.
It could be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just looking at everything, I don't think we had any questions in the chat this evening. I think we touched on everything that we needed to. Thank you so much again for coming out, Jerry, Deanna. The presentation was awesome. If you're watching this as a recording, please feel free to shoot us a dojo message, an email. If we have the answer, I'll definitely reply. If not, I will go find the answers with these two experts right here. But thank you for coming out tonight. And as always, if you have questions, feel free to contact us.